Okay, so so yesterday we introduced the S-Til matrix, which is the generalization. We will see that in fact it's a normalized generalization of the notion of S matrix in a premodular category. Here, thanks to this suggestion by Pavel Ettinghoff, you don't need spherical structure because we use this kind of isomorphism here. And when we replace one by another one, we know that you can go from one to the other by this automorphism of the identity functor. And we saw yesterday that in fact, even if you change, you will get some coefficient which will simplify. You will get the same coefficient here. We simplify, so it proves that it is invariant on the choice of that. So it's really an invariant of the Brady fusion category. Okay. So now, remember, in fact, we will recall that later, but it is well known that a premodular fusion category with invertible S matrix is called modular. If you don't assume spherical structure, we call that non-degenerate. But in fact, we already mentioned that in the introduction. So definition 228. A braided fusion category. C is said to be non-degenerate. Degenerate if the S-Til matrix is invertible. If the corresponding matrix S-Til is non-degenerate, which means invertible. Degenerate. Non-zero determinant. Okay. So in the next section, in section 3, we contain a list of equivalent way to formulate non-degeneracy involving the work of Muger and centralizer. Okay, so properties. Of a braided. When I say involving the work of Muger, maybe it's a non-spherical generalization of the work of Muger that are equivalent to its non-degeneracy. Degeneracy are listed in proposition 3.7 later. So in section 3, we will talk about that. Okay, so now now we define how to make the S-Til matrix for without spherical structure. Now we can come back to the spherical structure and see that everything match as expected. So you can apply the definition on the non-spherical structure, and you recover the usual definition on the spherical structure, as we will see in this subsection. In fact, this subsection will contain much more than just this remark, of course. But it will contain this remark also. Okay. So first, we recall the definition of premodular fusion category due to Muger. No, due to Bruguière, sorry. 2000. Okay. So a premodular category, fusion category, is a braided fusion category equipped with a spherical structure. In fact, the main point of this subsection is to provide a reformulation of that involving a ribbon structure, a twist with a ribbon structure. This is well known. So, because it is well known, it's good to know. Important to know. The spherical structure. Okay. So as I said, we can reformulate this definition in terms of twist. This definition in terms of twist. Okay. So first, recall that in any tensor category, the double dual functor is a tensor functor. In any tensor category, the double dual functor naturally has tensor functor structure. Okay. Now we will make from the braided structure, we can make there is a canonical way to make an isomorphism between X and X double star. A braided, something you cannot do without braiding canonically. The braided structure on C provides a natural morphism U X from X to X isomorphism defined as the following composition. So I will draw the composition and then I will draw the picture corresponding to this composition, which will be much more easy to understand intuitively. So coed X star, to map from that to X tensor X star tensor X double star. Then you apply. Oh, oh, I cannot read my note. Is there a star or not? Should be X star. C X star. So the breading tensor identity of X double star mapping to X star tensor X double star, and then you apply the evaluation map of X and identity of X double star. You go to X double star. This will be equation 12. So this is the definition of Ux. You start from X, you reach X double star. Okay, and so the Ev and coev are the usual evaluation and co-evaluation map. Fx coev are the evaluation and co-evaluation maps. Morphism. So here is a picture which make everything more intuitive. Picture. This one. Ux is equal to the following picture. So you start from identity of X. Okay. And then you have co-evaluation of X star. Unit. So here it's X, here it's X star, here it's X double star. And then you apply the twist, the braiding, and identity here, and then the evaluation map and identity here. You see, you start. So using this braiding allow to do that, you start from X, you reach X double star. Thanks to this braiding. Okay, so you can do as an exercise, you can show as an exercise that this is an isomorphism. You just need to make an inverse picture and to prove that the composition is identity. Maybe you will need you certainly need the hexagon axiom. So you need to know the pictorial representation of the hexagon axiom, I guess. Otherwise, it is done in my class a few years ago. I don't know if it is written in details in EGNO book. I don't think so, but it's an exercise. Ux is an isomorphism. So as an exercise, using the pictorial representation of hexagon axiom, show it pictorial. With an inverse picture. So as I said, this was done in details in my class a few years ago. Okay, so this Ux not a tensor, is not tensor. So it's, but you can still write something. So let me see. In general, it is not tensor. In fact, it is tensor if and if the category is symmetric. ux is not a tensor isomorphism. Is an isomorphism, but not a tensor isomorphism. Instead, satisfy the following. So you still have some tensorial monoidal identity, but this identity involves the braiding. That's why, in fact, the double braiding. That's why I said that in the symmetric case, meaning by definition that the double braiding is identity, this is tensor, but otherwise it's not. XY. This is the question 13. So as I said, by definition, this is always the identity in the symmetric case. Symmetric case means this equals this for all objects. Okay, so this was done in details again in my class several years ago, covering EGNO book. But for this class, we just mentioned where this appeared for the first time, I guess. Bakalov-Kirillov, 2001, lemma 222. Okay. Okay, so now for any natural isomorphism between X and X double star, for any isomorphism phi X, so they wrote this way in the paper, that is functorial in X. So I guess it means that this defines a natural isomorphism. I don't know why they did not write natural isomorphism, but maybe this is a usual way to say natural isomorphism. So I prefer to write the way it was written in the paper, in case I am mistaken, but I guess it meaning natural isomorphism, meaning phi. Phi equal phi X is a natural isomorphism. It should be that. There is no much possible variation of functoriality in this framework. Okay, so we have this isomorphism ux, which is not tensor, and we take a natural isomorphism like that, and so you can go from one to the other by an automorphism of the identity functor. So we can write, and this automorphism will be made of the twist. We can write phi x as ux composed theta x, theta so automorphism of the identity functor. Ok. Okay, so this is called equation 14, and be careful here. It may not be a tensor automorphism. May not be in hot. It's just an automorphism. It's not necessarily a tensor automorphism. So here you just take so since Ux is an isomorphism, just take theta x equal phi x composed with Ux inverse. So you take this automorphism of the identity functor and okay. So now if we we have so we can start from that and define this way, or you can start from here and define this way. We already know relation for that. So what we want is a condition for this to be tensor. We are tensor isomorphism. So a condition involving, we will write the condition involving the braiding and the twist, theta, for this to be a tensor isomorphism. So it's as follows. From the equation above, phi is a tensor isomorphism if and only if here we mean it's, so in this case, because it's a natural isomorphism between X and the double dual, it means that it's a pivotal structure. So what I said, it's a natural, meaning a natural isomorphism. Yeah, natural isomorphism between, identity of C2 double dual functor. It's a natural isomorphism between two functors. Okay, so it's a pivotal structure. So it is a pivotal structure if and only if on C. If and only if, and here there is a mistake in the paper, a typo. So in the paper they wrote this way, but in fact I checked. I will show you the proof, and it should be the other way. So I first write what is written in the paper, and then I will do, but it's not like that. In fact, it should be like that. So they just, in fact, the paper, they are, in the paper, they cover what was done in Bakalov's-Kirillov in this format, but in Bakalov's-Kirillov, they use another notation, and maybe there is a confusion. So in fact, you should switch these two. I will show you why it works this way. So you take that, put that here. This way work. Oh, sorry. Ah. Sorry, this way. That's better, I guess. So 15. But in fact, it's not so important because in the simple case, these are can be considered as numbers. So it can be there or there. If x and y are simple, these are just scalar. So you can just put it out as a scalar. So it's not so important. But here, I guess x and y are not supposed simple, so you should be careful. Okay, so so there is a notation, pictorial notation. So proof of pictorial notation. I guess I wrote that, so it should be used. If you have something like that, D, and of course, if the object here is equal to the object here is equal to here, and here, you can write. Maybe I should do x, y, z, z. If you have that, this is just equal to like that. By definition of the pictorial representation of tensor. Oh, okay. So I'm not sure this will be required, but I wrote that in my notes, so I forgot why. Anyway, so to prove this is using this equation 15, the phi is tensor. So you start from phi x tensor y. So by definition, this is u. So where's the definition? It's there. So you replace x by x tensor y. So it is u x tensor y composed with theta x tensor y, which is equal to what? So u x tensor y is there. So by Bacalov-Kirillov, we already know this relation. So because this is an isomorphism, you can put it the other way. So you multiply, you compose by theta x y inverse, compose theta y x c, sorry. So you compose that, so you write this here and you get that. This is what we want here. So it is u x tensor u y composed with c inverse of inverse breeding of xy, inverse breeding of yx. Okay. And we know this. So you see, it's easy. So you apply this equation, and you see why you need this order. Because here you will there, and this will simplify. If you have that the other way, it does not work. At least for the non-simple object. If it is simple, as I said, does not matter a priori. So this is composed CYX, composed CXY, composed with theta X tensor theta Y. So you simplify what is in the middle, and you get What? Yeah. This is what I wanted to say. So this is equal to u. So ux tensor uy composed with theta x tensor theta 1. And here you apply this. You apply this equality here, this thing, and this can be written as u. No. This one. Ux compose theta x tensor uy compose theta y. Okay, so you apply this. Here you have this is this. No, this is this. If you read the picture from top to bottom, this is this, and this is this, and so you apply this, and you get exactly that. This tensor is okay. So this is exactly. So this is exactly phi x tensor phi y, because phi is defined here. Okay. So we proved the tensor structure of phi under this identity 15. Okay. So an automorphism of the identity functor satisfying this condition 15 will be called a twist. So it's a twist when it satisfies this condition, otherwise it's just an automorphism of the identity functor. And it will be called a right-bound structure if there is an additional structure we will mention later soon. So an automorphism theta, the identity functor to itself, satisfying the condition 15 is called twist. And you will see soon, certainly after the pause, that we have a nice, also a pictorial representation of what is twist. So you can see in the literature, balancing transformation. I don't know where. I don't remember in which paper, maybe in Bruguière, I'm not sure. Balancing transformation. So twist or balancing transformation. So to get it spherical, you need, so this is enough. This is equivalent to get phi to be a pivotal structure, as we say. Now to get to be spherical, you need an extra assumption on the twist. In fact, the twist should be should deal with the dual. So you should get something like that, as we will see, as we will write very soon. And then the phi will be a spherical structure. So as shown, in Bacalov-Kirillov. Section 2, I don't know if it is a section or I guess it's section 2, 315. A pivotal structure. Phi is spherical. Metal structure phi on a braided fusion category. On a braided fusion category. Is spherical. If and only if the corresponding twist. So remember, we are in a braided fusion category, so you have the morphism ux, and so you can make a twist. So the corresponding twist defined like that, theta equal phi composed with u inverse. And this is another typo in the paper. It should be. So I wrote like that in the paper, but it should be like that. If we follow the previous typo. So this is spherical if only this twist is satisfy the condition theta x star equal theta x star for all x. So such a twist, so this is equation 16, such a twist is called a Riemann structure. Twist satisfying this property. 16 is called a Riemann structure. Conclusion. The premodular category is the same as the braided fusion category with a Riemann structure. Premodular fusion category is the same as a braided fusion category with endowed with Riemann structure. Remember, the premodular category by Bruguière is defined as a braided fusion category with a spherical structure, but we just explain why it is equivalent to get Riemann structure. Okay. And this was so there is a contradiction, at least a notation. I wrote this was the initial original definition of premodular given by Bruguière. But we say Bruguière say something different before. Anyway, so wait, it does not matter. Just because it's almost the pause, so we will make the pause. Just want to check this reference. Okay, so during the pause, I just remove the reference to Bruguière here. Even if the notion is due to Bruguière, this formulation is not due to Bruguière. I guess it's due to Muger. So to avoid any confusion, we remove the reference of the definition, but in fact, this is clarified. This will be clarified here. So the definition, the notion is really credited to Bruguière here. So no problem of credit. Okay. So this is, you have the credit here. This is in fact the original definition of the prémodular. Modular catégorie even in Bruguière. Bruguière. So Bruguière is a French, so this is a way to pronounce the name, Bruguière. Why? The definition 229 above presented here. So they are referring to definition 229. Follow Muger 2003, section 2.1. I guess. I lost my page. Where is it? Yeah. So yeah, okay. Okay, so now, so here we write the convention I said before. The twist, if you consider a simple object, in fact, you can replace the twist by just a scalar. This this is convenient. For X simple, we often abuse notation and treat theta X as an element of the field, as an element, a non-zero element of the field via isomorphism. Via the isomorphism, the Hom space from X to X, which is equal to the field by Schur law, and the fact that the field is algebraically closed. Okay, so now we can recover the usual S matrix, which will match with the S-tilde matrix defined before in more general. But in fact, the S-tilde matrix defined before will be the normalized S matrix in the spherical case. let C be a premodular category with a spherical structure phi. Be a premodular category with a spherical structure phi. So we will denote the usual trace and dimension without plus and minus, because as we said, we don't need in the spherical case the corresponding trace and dimension. Not, yeah, like that and like that, respectively. So the S matrix of C, premodular, will be is defined as so this will be equation 17. This matrix, a matrix with this entry, the trace of the double braiding on the simple object. As so this was defined like that in 2IF 1994, Bacalov, 2001, Muger, 2003. So the picture is as follows. So you have the double braiding. You apply the spherical structure. Here you choose this on the left, but you can choose on the right. So here we put it like that. And so here it's X. X double star. One double star. Okay. So okay. Now, so if you ignore the spherical structure, you can just draw it like that. Like that. If you ignore the spherical structure, in fact, you can see this as a double closed string, which are entangled like that. So this is a usual, but of course this makes no much sense in the. If you want to interpret this categorically, so intuitively it's good to remember that, but if you want to be very precise, you need a spherical structure. You need to write the braiding, the pictorial braiding, as usual. But in fact, this is, if you ignore some details, you can see topologically like that. So this can help intuitively, maybe. Okay. Okay. So here another literature remark. So they are saying that they follow the convention Muger, which is a bit different from Bakalov-Kirillov. That of Bakalov-Kirillov. Okay. So now we define the normalized S matrix, and that will recover, not recover, that will, recover the S-Til matrix, but in the spherical case. So you have the S-Til matrix, you don't need spherical structure, but if you have spherical structure, what you get is a normalized S matrix. Sorry if I am a bit confusing, but normalized S matrix is given by following. So S til xy equal xxy sxy divided by categorical dimension of x times categorical dimension of y. And this is as for equation 11. So this is by as for equation 11, I mean that here you recover, in the spherical case, you recover exactly the S-Til matrix defined. And if you want to, if you remember, so if you ignore again if you ignore phi, you can depict as follow. As I said, you have this thing for x and y divided by, so you have the entangled double string, closed string, divided by the non-entangled double string. So this is funny. And this one, so again, this is a division. So remember what we get yesterday. This one, remember? So you get exactly the same thing if you if you ignore the isomorphism here, phi, it's exactly entangled closed string divided by non-tangled tangled closed string. Okay. Okay. I will put this picture also above. Okay. And this, okay. So they are the same. So it's, you can observe that S and S tilde have the same rank. So one is invertible if and only if the other is invertible. Since, because they differ from, in fact, they differ from the matrix dx, dy, inverse. And this matrix. No, wait. Yeah. So you can go from one to the other by multiplying by some. I think I forgot. But anyway, it's using this coefficient. It's easy to see that they have the same rank. Yeah, anyway, I forgot that if you think 1 minute, it will be easy. So, have the same rank. So one is invertible if only the other is invertible. They convey equivalent structure information. So this way of writing that is strange. Structural information. So I just wanted to say, at least you have more information, but what is important is that, in particular, one is invertible if and if the other is invertible. Okay, so the non-degeneracy can be read from S or S tilde. But S depends on the spherical structure. S tilde is independent, as we explained yesterday. So unlike S tilde, the S matrix of C depends on the choice of the isomorphism. Of the isomorphism from X star. So phi X, I guess. So spherical structure here. As a spherical structure in equation 17. So what was equation 7 here? Yeah, here, in the premodular category, the phi is a spherical structure. Okay. So because of the Ribon structure, spherical structure is equivalent to Ribon structure, you can alternatively so an alternative approach is to use U from 12 instead of phi, replacing, okay. So if you use a Ribon structure, then the S okay, so if here you use instead of putting the spherical structure, if here you just put U X tensor Y inverse, so which is not a spherical structure, if you put that, what you get almost the same thing up to a multiplicative constant. So an alternative approach is to use U as defined before. From the 12, so the 12 I guess is where u was defined. Instead of 5 in 17, and then you have to replacing Sxy with theta x inverse, theta y inverse, so that consider a scalar Sxy. So this is okay. Okay. This remark is not maybe useful for the in the future, but it's more or less straightforward. Okay. So 2IF define what is a modular fusion category. So it's a premodular fusion category with a non-degenerate S matrix. So yeah, it's a non-degenerate premodular category according to the definition we gave without spherical structure. Torah 1994. Premodular. Catégorie C. Z. Bimodular if its S matrix is non-degenerate, meaning invertible. Okay. The next sentence is just repeating what I said. The premodular fusion category is modular if only if it is non-degenerate in the sense defined before. So this is again straightforward. The premodular category is modular if and if non-degenerate. In the sense of definition 228. Okay. Okay, so again, a strange sentence. So you can define the trace. So usually to define the S matrix, the entry of the S matrix, this involves the trace of the double braiding. But if x equal to y, in fact, you can consider the trace of the single braiding. And in fact, we will see that the trace of the single braiding divided by the categorical dimension is exactly the twist. So first, a sentence which look a bit weird. So for a spherical fusion category C, an object Y in C and F, a morphism from Y to Y, we define its trace of F scalar as before. In particular, this apply for a premodular category. Modular category. Choosing y equal x tensor x and s equal s the double braiding with x equal y. Here they choose inverse for some proof reason, but so yeah, all this sentence just to say that we will consider the trace of x. We'll consider this trace. So I don't think it is relevant, but just say that you by what was defined before, it makes sense to consider this trace. It's okay. Anyway. So we will need the following well-known fact, and we will prove it. So here they put well-known, but they don't put reference. So this means that it's when the author wrote this paper, this was a folklore result without proof. So most of the experts know that, but it was not written somewhere. Proposition 32. So this is about the fact that you can recover the twist as a trace of the simple braiding of X with itself, renormalized by the categorical dimension of the object. Let X be a simple object in pre-modular category, and let the twist scalar corresponding twist, then inverse of this non-zero number times the categorical dimension of X is equal to the trace of inverse of the braiding of X with itself. So before the proof of that, I will write a remark, because you can say what's the point of putting inverse everywhere. In fact, because for the proof it will be more convenient this way, I guess. But in fact, it's true without inverse. So this is the point of the remark. So remark before the proof of proposition 232. We also have theta x dx equal trace of cx, which follow. Oh, this is equation 18. So we will prove equation 18, but this simplified version follow from equation 18 and applied to the reverse braiding, I guess. Apply to the category C with the reversed braiding C tilde xy equal C yx inverse. So this is as usual. So you have the usual braiding. So you have a cxy equal like that, and c tilde xy equal like that. Okay, so just, which is exactly what you get from this definition. Okay. Inverse. Okay. As an exercise, show. So it is written like that. It's well known that the twist corresponding to this reverse braiding is precisely the inverse twist. You can do that as an exercise if you like. It was not proved. Okay, so here. Okay, so you get, so before you get that, so theta x equal trace of cxx divided by tx, which is equal to the braiding. And here you have phi x inverse exercise here. This way, divided by like that. So again, if you ignore if phi is ignored, which makes no sense categorically, but pictorially, if you just delete this from the picture and you consider the picture topologically, you get that it is equal to something like that. So a kind of infinite sign divided by the closed loop x. Okay. So you have to be careful. Here, topologically, you can say, okay, this is equal to that topologically, but here you are not allowed to. The rule of the pictorial calculus are very strict. You cannot just say, okay, everything works topologically. No. This is the twist, and this is different from one in general. So you have to be careful. Graphical calculus, you have to be careful. Okay, so this was a remark. Now we can prove the proposition. And in fact, this proof will be maybe the first big proof of the course. In fact, it takes 2 pages from my notes. So of course, we will have no time to do that in 10 minutes, but we will start. So this is just a remark. And now we will proof of proposition 232. Okay. Okay, so so by definition, as I already wrote, by definition, theta x inverse times dx is equal to what? Yeah, so this we will make a little proof of that. This is, so by definition, this is equal to that. So I will explain why. And this is equation 19. So why this is true? So this is easy to prove. So dx equal the trace of the identity of x, which is equal to the trace of the identity of x. Identity of x is an invertible morphism from x to x times its inverse. So if you take what kind of, so it is equal to phi x inverse composed with phi x. Okay, you compose an invertible with so this is identity of x, no problem. So it's not from x to x, phi from x to x double star, but okay, you can take, it's an isomorphism. You can take the inverse, and it's an isomorphism from x to x. So it's an identity from x to x, so it's okay. And then this is just trace of phi x inverse composed by definition of phi x, ux composed theta x. So if I'm not mistaken, phi x is defined in this way. Where is it? Yeah, it's written here. Okay, so but this is a scalar. So you can put it out. So this is equal to, sorry. Theta x trace of phi x inverse compose ux, which is what we wanted to get as the first line of the proof. Here you put the theta x the other way, and you get exactly this equality. So this is straightforward by definition. Okay. So here I want to recall a little bit. So where phi x from x to x double star represent. So I should not write it like that because it's a morphism. It's not an object. It's a morphism between two objects. It's not an element. X is not an element. Represent the spherical structure and ux is defined as before by equation 12. Okay. Okay, so now the interesting part. Okay, so we have that. Now we will show pictorially, more or less. We will have a pictorial representation of dust, the left-hand side, a pictorial representation of the right-hand side, and these two will be the same. So when I say pictorially, in fact, this can be interpreted pictorially, but in the paper there is no picture. So now consider the following diagram where the first row of the diagram corresponds exactly to equation 12. Remember, equation 12 was a long composition of things defining this. So the first row, you will have a commuting diagram like this way. This row will be exactly the row defining that. And here we will have identity, identity. And so you will get, but because we will prove the diagram commute, we'll prove that this and this are the same. Yeah. So here is the commuting diagram, and I guess I will have no more time to prove that it is commuting, but it will be next week. Where the first row correspond exactly to equation 12. Okay. So equation 12 is just like that. X identity of X tensor coev of X star. X tensor X star tensor X double star. Then the gradient X star tensor identity of X double star to X star tensor X star, and then evaluation map on X of X identity of X double star X double star, and we want to show that this map from X to X double star is equal to this map from X to X double star, different. We'll prove it is equal, but the way to write it is different. So you start from this. So it's you permuted coev and identity. Tensor X, then identity of X star tensor X, and here X star tensor X. So don't worry, next week I will draw pictures for everything. And the proof of the commuting diagram will be done by picture. In fact, in the paper, I don't write too much details. But in fact, once you draw the picture, everything becomes immediate. So here is just identity. And so you have this inner square. And in fact, we just need to show that these inner square are commuting. Identity of tensor X, tensor X. There is a lot of identity in this diagram. So this Let me think, but it may be simplified because identity. This is the same. Anyway. Okay. So tomorrow, next week, we will show that the first row corresponds to U. So remember, it was something like that. The second row is something like that. And we will prove this is equal to this by proving that this is commuting, this is commuting, this is commuting. The first is commuting because you have something, as I said, there's something like that, in fact. Equal to that. So you can use this here, you use the naturality of the grading. For the other way, you have something like that. This one is a little bit more complicated. I will explain that in more details next week. So this is the hexagon axiom. And then the last one is immediate, in fact, because you have identity everywhere. And so this commute, this commute, this commute. So this map equal this map. And you will use that to finish the proof. Okay, so see you next week.